You watch horror movies to get scared, I get it. But nothing Hollywood has ever written comes close to what's actually floating out there in the dark, because none of it is fiction. Somewhere in a drawer nobody talks about, there's a file. Not classified by a government, classified by physics itself. Every planet in it broke a rule it wasn't supposed to break, and every single one is real. Open the file with me. File 1, a planet with 3 suns, and maybe no planet at all. If you stood on a moon orbiting this thing, you wouldn't watch one sunset, you'd watch 3, one after another, because this world orbits not one star, but 3, tangled together in a system astronomers still can't fully explain. The main star looks almost exactly like our own sun. 2 smaller stars circle each other close by, orbiting that main star as a pair. Your shadow would split 3 ways. True night might never fully come, because as one sun dipped below the horizon, another would already be climbing. Here's the part that should not be possible. The planet itself is a gas giant, slightly heavier than Jupiter, and it finishes a full orbit in under 4 days, meaning it sits scandalously close to its stars. Planets like this are supposed to form far out in the cold, then drift inward over millions of years. But with 2 extra stars crowding the neighborhood, there shouldn't have been enough raw material left to build a planet at all. And then it gets stranger. Astronomers announced they'd found it in 2005. 2 years later, a different team pointed sharper instruments at the same spot and found nothing. Not a trace. If the planet were there, they insisted, they would have seen it. Nobody has confirmed it since. And that absence has a haunting explanation. Light takes time to travel. The picture astronomers see today left that system years, sometimes centuries, before it reached us. So it's entirely possible the planet was already gone, torn apart, swallowed, or shifted out of view, long before the discovery was even announced. And what scientists actually caught was the last flicker of light from something that no longer existed. We might be looking at a ghost. File 2. The Whiplash Planet. Picture Texas-sized weather swings, except it's not weather, it's the entire planet. For about 100 days, this world drifts far from its star, floating in a cold so deep it would frost over anything exposed to it. Then, in about 20 hours, it does something no planet here would survive. It dives toward its star, swings past at a terrifying distance, then slingshots back into the dark. If Earth pulled a stunt like that, our atmosphere would be stripped away and the ground would turn to lava. On this planet, the close pass acts like flipping a switch on a blowtorch. In about 6 hours, the temperature on the sunlit side rockets from around 932 degrees Fahrenheit to well over 2000. The star blasts it with more than 1,000 times the energy Earth gets from the sun. If you floated above the clouds during the flyby, you'd watch that star balloon up until it looked 30 times bigger than our sun looks from Earth. That flash of heat is so violent it triggers what scientists call shockwave storms, winds erupting at 11,000 miles per hour, roughly 15 times faster than the strongest hurricane ever recorded on Earth. Then, almost as fast as it arrived, the planet cools and vanishes from infrared telescopes in under 10 hours. By all the normal rules of orbital physics, gravity should have smoothed this stretched-out path into a neat circle by now. It hasn't. This planet is stubborn. It could keep whiplashing between fire and frost for another 10 billion years. File 3. The Zombie Planets. Astronomers named this system after monsters, and they weren't exaggerating. The star at the center, nicknamed after a fictional creature that raises the dead, isn't a normal star at all. It's the collapsed corpse of one, a pulsar spinning about 160 times every single second and blasting out radiation hot enough to sterilize anything nearby. 3 planets orbit it, and they were the very first exoplanets ever confirmed, discovered back in the early 1990s. Stand on one of them and the sky itself would drive you insane. Since the star spins so violently while firing beams of energy outward, it doesn't look like a sun at all. It looks like a strobe light slamming on and off 160 times a second, lighting up dead, irradiated ground in a rhythm no human eye was built to watch. Here's the twist that earns them the zombie name. These planets probably weren't born the normal way. Scientists think they formed from the wreckage after 2 dead stars collided and merged billions of years ago, meaning these worlds were assembled from a graveyard. They didn't survive an apocalypse. They rose out of one. File 4. The planet that got eaten and lived to tell about it. Koi 55 once orbited a small, blisteringly hot star, more than 5 times hotter than our own sun. 18 million years ago, that star swelled into a red giant, and instead of drifting to safety the way Earth or Jupiter comfortably orbit our sun, Koi 55 plunged straight into the star's outer layers. It was engulfed, swallowed by a wall of plasma. Most planets would be vaporized instantly. This one wasn't. Only its scorched, rocky core survived. Even now, millions of years later, its surface temperature sits around 12,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Teleport onto it and you'd turn into a cloud of atoms before your brain even registered you'd arrived. It now completes a full orbit in under 6 hours. And here's what makes this genuinely unsettling instead of just a one-off fluke. It's happened again. In 2026, NASA's Webb telescope studied a second planet, orbiting what's now a white dwarf, just 3 million kilometers out, finishing a lap every 34 hours. It's still radiating leftover heat from being swallowed the same way. 2 planets, 2 stars that tried to erase them, 2 survivors. Whatever is happening out there, it isn't a coincidence anymore. It's a pattern. File 5, the planet that flies backward and the ice that burns. WASP-17b broke one of the most basic rules in planet formation. Nearly every planet we've ever observed orbits in the same direction its star spins. This one doesn't. It travels backward, a retrograde orbit that only makes sense if something violent happened early in its life, most likely a near collision that flung it off its original path. It's also almost twice as wide as Jupiter, but only half as heavy, so light it would float in a bathtub if you could find one large enough. In 2023, the James Webb Space Telescope found something even stranger drifting in its scorching atmosphere: clouds made of quartz. Then there's GJ436b, nicknamed for a bird that flies so close to the sun its own tail catches fire. The irony is that scientists believe its interior might be made of ice, even though surface temperatures sit around 820 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt lead. The gravity down there is so crushing it can force water into a solid state while it's still burning hot. Something out there once knocked this planet off a safer orbit and left it to be eaten alive in slow motion. File 6, the planet that bleeds metal. Kelt 9b orbits a star so blindingly hot that even sturdy molecules like water and carbon dioxide get torn apart on contact, and metals like iron and titanium don't melt, they turn straight into gas. One side of this planet faces its star permanently, locked in place, baking at over 7,700 degrees Fahrenheit. On that side, metal evaporates into the sky. Winds carry it around to the cooler night side, where it might briefly condense back into something solid before getting dragged around to bake all over again. An endless, miserable cycle. The radiation is so intense, the planet is puffing up like a balloon about to pop, while its star is stripping away roughly 10 million tons of its material every second, trailing a tail of gas behind it like a comet the size of a world. Scientists predict that within 1 billion years, the star will swell into a red giant and finish the job it started, swallowing the very planet it's currently cooking alive. File 7, the planet with no sun at all. So J3 18.5-22 doesn't orbit anything. No star rises here because there's no star to rise. It was either kicked out of its home system early in its life, or it never had one to begin with, formed alone in the black space between stars and left to drift there forever. You'd expect a planet with no sun to be a dead frozen rock. It isn't. It's roughly Jupiter's size, but 8 times heavier, and it still glows with heat left over from its own violent birth, only about 23 million years ago, practically an infant in cosmic terms. Its clouds aren't water vapor. They're hot dust and molten metal, with the highest layers made of tiny grains of quartz and sand, and heavier clouds of liquid iron drifting underneath. I keep coming back to this one. Every other planet on this list, at least, has a star to blame for its horror story. This one is out there, completely alone, glowing in the dark for no one, drifting long after every star we can see has burned out. I don't think we have a word for that kind of alone. That's the file, for now. There are more worlds like this out there, catalogued and waiting, each one breaking a rule we thought was permanent. If you want the next file opened, tell me which planet still keeps you up at night.